Hello and welcome to another video on heliopsychology with me, Annani Kelley, PhD. Today's video is going to focus on space weather and anomalous states of consciousness. And again, it's all about the energy. And when I talk about energy, I am talking about quantifiable energy, the energy of light, the energy of brainwave patterns. So our brains and hearts respond to space weather and external electromagnetic fluctuations. This is largely modulated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the human electromagnetic field, endogenous ferromagnetic particles, our brains and hearts, and hormones respond to these fluctuations again, anomalous states of consciousness. But before I get into that, here's a screenshot from the GOES X-ray flex taken at 1938 UTC, today, February 25th. This would be 11:38 UTC Pacific time. So we were kind of flat, not a whole lot going on the past 7 days until the past 24 hours started to see an uptick in the flux. And we did have an M2 flare off the limb this morning. It does look like potentially AR 4366 survived its transit on the far side of the sun. It remains to be seen how much of that sunspot is left, but it does look like some has remained. This particular solar flare, however, according to spaceweather.com, came from a region in the southern hemisphere. So here's a look at an SDO image, and this was taken today. In the upper left hand where my mouse is, you can see, I'm not sure, but I think this might be AR 4366 coming back around. And here's where the other region is. So I kind of did make a bigger shot, but they're still kind of hard to see because they are still rotating in. So just keep that in mind. So what do I mean about anomalous states of consciousness? Anomalous states of consciousness refer to experiences that are outside of the normal range of consciousness that we normally have. So this would include out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, but it also includes psychic experiences. Now, many of you may think that parapsychology has no place in psychology, and you are, you know what, I'm sorry, you may hear background noise. One of my cats is getting into trouble next to me, and I don't really want to do this video all over again because I've been trying to do this for the past 24 hours, and yesterday we lost internet because there's a storm. We have a storm system here in Northern California. So I'm sorry if you hear random noises. It's one of my cats getting into trouble. So anyway, parapsychology and these type of experiences do belong in the overarching field of psychology because they do describe human experiences and do change human perceptions and can lead to different behaviors. Some experiences have been correlated with or confused with schizophrenia. But the fact of the matter is, they are common experiences amongst the general public. And I feel they do deserve to have some light shed on them, especially in the realms of heliopsychology, because of some of the research that has been done surrounding them. So if you are one of those people who's like, psychic ability doesn't exist, ESP doesn't exist, I don't believe in any of that bullshit, go ahead and just go right past this video. Don't even keep listening. But for those of you who are curious or who do believe in it or who have had experiences, and this may be the video for you. I'm not going to speak to whether or not they are real. I will say that I have had my own experiences, and not a single person can dissuade me from what I experienced. So, as I said, these are common experiences. And here's an AI overview screenshot I took. Approximately 30 to 50% of the general population has reported at least one anomalous experience. And I'm going to say reported. In some of my research, the number is far greater than that because a lot of people do not report their experiences out of fear of being ostracized by their friends, families, coworkers. So some of these experiences, again, they have them here: deja vu, premonitions, sensing spirits. But it's a lot more than that. It is a lot more than that. And interestingly enough, electromagnetic fields may have a part to play in some of these experiences, such as with hallucinations, feelings of fear, ghostly sensations. That would be the sense presence. And this could be due to interacting with the temporal lobe. And I'm going to get into some of the research by Michael Persinger, which is mentioned in the screenshot, according to researchers like Michael Persinger. So he devised a lot of experiments surrounding the temporal lobe, and he's most famous for the God helmet experiments, which you can research at your leisure if you would like to. And before I get even further into that, I am sharing a screenshot of the FOIA homepage. And the reason I'm sharing the screenshot and bringing this up is because the CIA ran a project called Project Stargate, where they looked at um, remote viewing, where they tested remote viewing, but they also looked at remote viewing in conjunction with geomagnetic activity. So here's the homepage for FOIA. And if you are interested, you can just type in whatever you want into that search query there. And I typed in Stargate. This is the first thing that comes up. So you can look through the Stargate information. And then you can type in telepathy or psychic phenomenon. And here's the search results for that, for the CIA's research into psychic and telepathic phenomenon, including remote viewing. But it gets even more interesting because they were looking at these things in conjunction with geomagnetic activity. Does geomagnetic activity influence, enhance, um, exacerbate, whatever? What does it do with telepathic ability and remote viewing? And so Michael Persinger is one of the people who did some of those studies. And this is one of them by Shout and Persinger. Geomagnetic factors in spontaneous subjective, telepathic, precognitive, and post-mortem experiences. Post-mortem experiences refers to experiences where you have a visitation of a dead friend, loved one, or enemy. I mean, it's not always going to be a friend or loved one. You may have a visitation of someone you didn't like, right? Anyway, I digress. So what they found was that when the geomagnetic field was active, telepathic experiences, postmortem experiences, those decreased. And the same thing happened with remote viewing. When geomagnetic activity is active, telepathic, remote viewing, ESP decreases. However, what they also found that precognitive experiences are here, they say PC experiences, and that's at the top of the page, tend to occur when the geomagnetic activity is similar to what the activity will be on the day of the event, which means that the experience of the precognition and the actual event that you see when you're having that precognitive experience have the same geomagnetic field activity. That's fascinating. But what they also um, posited was that geomagnetic activity allows for the temporal distortion, or what they call temporal dimensional interpretation. Um, and that's my theory too. I think that geomagnetic activity may cause a subjective, this is just a theory, it's can't quote me on that, may cause a subjective change to our experience of time. So there are physicists who believe that all time is now and that past and future do not exist. Only the present exists. And they are referred to as presentists, and then there are physicists who are in the eternalist camp, where they believe all time is now, but that all time is now includes the past and the future, which is what enables people to see or remember the future, remembering forward in time, in other words. So it's all connected in some way, and it really depends on who you're speaking to. I belong to the eternalist camp. I do believe that all time exists, that the past still exists, that the future still exists in the now that we are experiencing. In fact, Clive Barker, who wrote The Great and Secret Show in Everville, has a really great quote at the beginning of his books, um, which I won't repeat because I don't want to infringe on copyright. So you can look up Clive Barker and look up The Great and Secret Show art quote, and maybe you'll find it, maybe you won't. Okay, and here's another paper, and this was done by Stanley Krippner and Michael Persinger. Um, Evidence for enhanced congruence between dreams and distant target material during periods of decreased geomagnetic activity. This was in the Society for Scientific Exploration, 1996. So their study looked at dream telepathy, specifically dream telepathy. So I'm going to read the abstract. The accuracy of concordance between dream content and target pictures over 20 non-consecutive nights for a single percipient was correlated with global geomagnetic activity. Excuse me. And what they found was that the remote viewing in a dream, so when the person is trying to dream the target, they found that again decreases in geomagnetic activity. When there's low geomagnetic activity, that dream telepathy tends to be more accurate. And that's what the CIA found too. The same thing with the CIA. Low geomagnetic activity increases the likelihood of telepathy or remote viewing, but increased geomagnetic activity again increases the likelihood of precognitive. Now, I do need to state this in case you don't know. Telepathy and remote viewing are in the here and now, and precognitive is something you're seeing it in the future. And here's another interesting one: magnetospheric and lunar interactions with reported sensory hallucination and exploratory study. So one of the other things that we have come across in studying, unusual, anomalous, exceptional, bizarre human experiences is that geomagnetic activity also may play a role in hallucinations, partly because electromagnetic fields can cause distortions in the temporal lobe and other lobes in the brain, which may lead to hallucinations. There is some theories that some ghosts, not ghosts, excuse me, yeah, ghosts like hauntings, but also alien abductions, maybe more of a EMF or GMA involved scenario than actual aliens or ghosts. So that is also something to consider. I'm not going to discount ghosts. I'm not going to discount aliens. I'm not those people. I did not have that experience. But there's a reason why ghost hunters have EMF meters when they go into haunted houses, so-called haunted houses, quote unquote, because EMF fields can cause distortions and cause feelings of sense presences and cause even hallucinations of ghosts and or aliens. And that's what the Persinger God helmet did. So people who had that experience of the magnetic fields passing through their brains would experience those kind of things. Another one that Persinger did was the electromagnetic induction of mystical and altered states within the laboratory. So again, and this is through the Journal of Consciousness Exploration and Research in 2010, I love this. I love that he says this in his abstract. The human brain is the locus of all human experiences. And it is, we process our experiences through our brains. But the thing is, our brains can and are influenced by electromagnetic fields. And I cannot stress that enough. They are influenced by these fields. They are influenced by the sun's electromagnetic fields, by the earth's electromagnetic fields, and by man made electromagnetic fields. So, what he did was pass weak EMF fields through volunteers and induced mystical and altered states. It was pretty cool. Direct cerebral electrical stimulation during the 20th century evoked these experiences. So it begs the question, how often do people experience mystical states or altered states during geomagnetic activity? And how many people experience those states when the field is calm? And are these states more prevalent during low periods of solar activity, or are they more prevalent during high periods of solar activity? And this brings me back to the axial period that I discussed in a previous video. So, my feeling is that mystical states, like positive mystical states, are more prevalent during low periods of space weather. And part of my feeling for that is because you're calmer and you're more receptive. You're more receptive to peace, to creativity, to unitive experiences. And again, heightened space weather leads to more violence and aggression. So if you're calm, if you're not aggressive, then perhaps that's where we're going to see those mystical experiences. That doesn't necessarily mean that high space weather inhibits it, but maybe they're different. I don't know. I would love to see a lot more research done about this. With people who have mystical experiences, with people who are highly spiritual, because it is worth checking out, definitely. So, and another one by Persinger, and this one is Berger and Persinger, Perceptual and Motor Skills, 1991. Geophysical variables and behavior, quieter annual geomagnetic activity, and larger effect size for experimental size studies over 6 decades. So this was a meta-analysis. And again, it's the same thing that we see consistently, that ESP, clairvoyancy, telepathy, these paranormal, parapsychological experiences, anomalous states of consciousness that involve psi, ESP, are less or not at all when there are elevated space weather phenomenon going on. So more geomagnetic activity, more solar flaring inhibits ESP. But when the fields are calm, when the sun is calm, when the geomagnetic environment is calm, the ESP that increases. So there's been a lot of meta-analysis looking at this. There's another one. I don't think I have it here, or maybe I do. We'll get to the next slide in just a moment. Where sometimes there's no ESP effect when there has been geomagnetic activity. No, I didn't have it. Okay. I can bring that up in another video. This one was really just, I wanted to keep it short. There's a lot more I can get into with this, but I just wanted to bring this out there for people who have also had these experiences. So people talk about how they don't sleep well, about their tinnitus, but I'm sure there are some of you who watching this video have experienced something unusual during space weather activity, an anomalous state of consciousness. And I want you to know these are common experiences. Again, between 30 and 50% of the population have reported them. And the people who don't report them, it's because they're afraid. They're afraid of being ostracized. They're afraid of their friends and family calling them crazy. Or more importantly, they are afraid of being diagnosed with a mental illness, when again, these are common experiences and not indicative of a mental aberration, unless that mental aberration existed first and this is a side effect or a symptom of it. So, like schizophrenia, schizophrenics tend to have hallucinations, but that's a common feature. So if you're just like suddenly having a hallucination out of nowhere, that doesn't mean you're schizophrenic. That could be a sign of illness, it could be a sign of a medication, or it could be the electromagnetic field in your environment or space weather. Something to think about. Anomalous experiences are part of our understanding of the human psyche. It is all of us. To just look at the human psyche as behavior and thought is completely wrong. The human psyche is all of the human experience, and that includes anomalous states of consciousness. So, anomalous states of consciousness, again, are influenced by multiple factors, including SGMA, but they could, again, it could be medication, it could be sleep deprivation, it could be fasting, it could be illness, but again, also SGMA. So, why or why not? Again, we are different by virtue of our sex, by our age, by illnesses, by medications we take, whether or not we are near magnetically active regions, where we live above or below 42nd parallel, and other confounding variables. In the works, as I always say, I'm writing a book on heliopsychology. I'm creating an app. These are the apps. I'm not going to do my spiel on them. You can check out my other videos if you want to learn more about them. Just get to the end and listen. But here they are. I will say that I may have a potential way to get this out um, without necessarily needing to pay for the upgrade. I'm waiting to see. It may take a few more weeks until I find out. But again, if you would like to donate to get the app up and running, this one does need me to pay to get it out to the public. You can donate. So future videos will include the hows and whys of heliopsychology, how to read the sun, discussions of relevant research, updates on solar activity, and answering questions from viewers. If you would like to see more videos like this one, please like and subscribe or comment. If you would like to collaborate on a research project, you can contact me through YouTube's messaging service or my personal email, dr_helio@mail.com. And I did mention that I did have someone reach out to me about collaborating, and I'm waiting to get that finalized. And once it is finalized, it's going to be so exciting. I really hope this happens because I'm just so thrilled about it. And the minute it does, believe me, I'm going to get it up on a video and let you guys know because it is an astounding opportunity. So, really hoping for that. Um, I am not monetized. If you would like to support my channel and research, consider donating via Venmo, Dr_Helio. Again, I am in the process of writing a book, so donating can help me work on that without worrying too much about my finances. That would be wonderful. There's a lot going on in my life that has been unfortunate and crazy. Anyway, thank you for watching. Look for me in the next video and have a lovely day.